Workplace romances are a fun change of pace in the larger romance anime genre. If you're like me and are a working adult, it's nice to get a bit of representation in what can feel like an endless wave of high school love stories. However, setting the stories in a modern workplace comes with a ton of trade-offs. More limited scope of setting, smaller social circles, and storylines that can be very similar across anime are a few hurdles that these shows tackle in their own unique ways. Overall though, letting characters think and act like real adults makes workplace romances feel like a breath of fresh air if done right. My Awkward Senpai is a show that didn't make a ton of waves this last anime season, even with a lighter slate of shows when it came to overall popularity. I think if you keep up with romance anime, it probably came up on your radar. I had a good time watching it through the weeks, but it didn't knock my socks off. Now that it's over though, I want to look at it in the larger context of workplace romances. Specifically, I want to compare it to another 2025 anime in the genre, I Have a Crush at Work. I was lucky enough to have this be the first workplace romance I saw, which I think is being pretty spoiled from the get-go. The reason that these two series are perfect to compare is that in many ways they are complete opposites. Their approaches to the world built around the main romance, the side storylines, even the way that the main couples get together, they are two sides of the same romance coin. To put it succinctly, I Have a Crush at Work is all about how the main relationship fits into the world within which the story takes place, where My Awkward Senpai has everything pointed towards the main romance, all of the smaller pieces supporting the central thread. So that's what we're going to dive into today, looking at the strengths and weaknesses to each approach. Let's start by looking at My Awkward Senpai. The plot is very straightforward. Azusa is a great worker, but harsh and a bit standoffish. She commands respect from her coworkers, but finds it hard to connect with them. When the new employee, Yu, is assigned to work under her, this acts as both a jumping-off point for their own relationship and Azusa's latent desires to be liked and friendly. The entirety of the season is a slow build of feelings between them, with the dam only finally breaking in the final episode, where we get to end with a cute date with the two of them. Each episode of this show follows the same formula. Some work situation pulls Yu and Azusa together. Azusa worries about some part of things, whether that's her mentorship of Yu or the workplace dynamics of the situation at hand, and then the two of them share a personal moment together at the end of the whole affair. This repeats, growing only in intensity, until Azusa finally confesses to Yu after his own botched confession. Just from the structure of the episodes, you can see how focused the show is on the main relationship. Everything is pointed at Yu and Azusa. There are basically two side characters, Mio and Ritsu. I'm not joking when I say that they are only there to push our main couple closer together. Beyond appearance and tone, we learn next to nothing about them. If they speak alone with each other, it's about Yu and Azusa. The entire surrounding world of this anime is the same way. Work never really gets in the way of Yu and Azusa's romance. Instead, it usually is the reason that they end up in the same place at all. Similarly, there are really no goals or stakes when it comes to the work in this anime. It fades to the background incredibly quickly once it puts our two lovebirds in the same room, and it never pokes its head after. No sudden performance reviews, no risks of conflict of interest. It's just the starter gun for the rest of the episode. I am not exaggerating when I say that I barely remember what they even do for work in this anime, beyond the episode at the Racing Maid Cafe. I am not saying these things specifically as criticisms, rather as an observation of the show's prioritization of the romance. Everything else in this anime serves to lift up and accelerate the main relationship. There are no speed bumps. The rest of the plot is instead the road on which our story rides. Now, if I did have to have one, I think my main complaint with this anime is that there are no surprises in store. The best episode, the one where Azusa visits Yu at home when he's sick, is really sweet and really emphasizes why Azusa cares for Yu. But it's still the same formula that I mentioned before. Similarly, the final confession between the two of them is a nice culmination of 12 episodes of slow burn, but it doesn't tell us anything new about our two friends in the process. It's hard for me to shake the feeling that the Azusa we met in episode 1 is the same one that we end the season on. Being a little friendlier, a little more outspoken, these are things we could tell that she wanted way back then. Achieving those is nice, but it's not thought-provoking. I wish there were a couple of times where things took a left turn, or one of Yu or Azusa acted in a way that defied our expectations. Something to unseat us a bit, reveal a new angle on how they think and feel deep down. Yu as a character is a bit flat. He exists as a foil to Azusa more than a person in his own right, the one who helps pull her out of her self-imposed isolation. Again, that could be fine, but when Azusa herself isn't the most complex character, it feels like he is a bit too simple. Now is a good time to pivot to I Have a Crush at Work. The first and most obvious difference between our two shows is that in this one, our main two characters are already dating at the start of the anime. This choice turns everything completely on its head. Rather than having tension come from a bubbling nascent romance, this show's stakes comes from our main couple's choice to try to keep that relationship a secret from everyone they work with. This is an interesting way to set things up because it gives the work part of the story a real purpose. Where in My Awkward Senpai it pushed our relationship together and then fell away, here it dances around our couple, threatening at any moment to upend things altogether. Already we can feel how this structure is different. It lends itself to a balance between the romance and the work, a push and pull. The work also has more purpose here in its expanded role. Yui and Masugu care about the work they are doing, and the projects that they take on are just as important to them as the love part of the equation. Yui's failure with her first dessert project is crushing, but it provides a good opportunity for both her professional growth and a deeper bond with Masugu. That sort of symbiosis between the workplace and the personal relationship is part of what makes this anime so special. Love is important to all of our lives, but frankly, so is the work that we do. It's refreshing to see characters stress about career growth and what they want to do with the rest of their lives, without it feeling contrived or forced. The love is a part of the story here, not the entire thing. Similarly, the cast of side characters in I Have a Crush at Work are one of its highlights. The pinnacle of that is the romance between Keisuke and Shizuno. Watching their relationship slowly bloom is really fun. A realization that two characters that seem very different on the outside actually share a lot in common. They also are a cool foil to Yui and Masugu, where they provide the new love and big confession that you normally would get from the main couple. Outside of them, though, there are plenty of other side characters that all have their own personalities and priorities that manage to shine through in little bits and moments. It's kind of crazy to think that in the same span of episodes, I Have a Crush at Work had so many more memorable characters, a separate love story, and work that changed through the season, all without it feeling rushed. Obviously, some of that is due to Yui and Masugu being together from the start, but I think that's selling it short. It's a top-down approach towards the balance between the workplace and the main romance that carved out so much room. My Awkward Senpai is an anime about budding romance that is set in a workplace. I Have a Crush at Work is an anime about a workplace that has multiple romances popping up in it. The difference is in where each anime puts its focus. I know that in this video I have a clear preference towards one show over the other, but I don't mean that to be an indictment of the approach. Having a one-track mind when it comes to the story can be really effective, and allows for far greater depth. Similarly, if not juggled expertly, I Have a Crush at Work's approach can feel really shallow, like a tasting menu of stories and emotions without ever committing to anything fully. I think that digging into these two shows and pointing out the differences in approach, though, is really interesting, and illuminates differences in a subgenre that can feel samey, when on the surface they mostly take place in one office and center around a working adult's life. And that ends this episode of Split Screen. Sorry, I know my release schedule has been a bit out of whack with the holidays, but I'm just trying to get videos out whenever I have the time. Also, in case you were interested, I am pleased to announce that music is back on the menu for this channel, and I am sending off some tracks for AMVs soon. Stay tuned for those. I think that these are some of the best songs yet. If you enjoyed the video today, liking and subscribing helps a ton, as does hitting the hype button on the mobile app. I'm Slam Anime, and I'll see you next time.